Hey there, everyone. Welcome in to another episode of the Rochford Files with your host that's kind of between the coast, coming to you live from the Mile High City. It's Andrew Rochford here on a uh, chilly Sunday night, and probably the same way for most of you around the world where you don't have the luxury of living in a mild winter. Live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, please click the like button, share it wherever you can. Then, if you're a new viewer, uh, please click that subscribe button and don't forget to click the bell. And if you're on Twitch, click that follow button. And soon I'll have a better third platform, I hope, than Twitter. Only time will tell. Hey there, Novocaine. I can't tell what emoji you used, but I'm sure it was good. Hey there, WCSN. Looks like uh, you should probably get yourself a better device soon. But that can also apply to me as well, as this laptop was quite a few years old. Hi to you as well. So now we got people starting to slowly fill in the chats on the YouTubes. And two main things is focusing in on the past week of the Elon Musk Twitter regime. Then talk about how the fraud squad, by the way, and their scabbing in a major way is now going to pretend to try to support another set of workers. So we'll get into that later on in the show. And some other small things I'll work in too into the mix to got to keep a couple surprises up my sleeve for the show. But let's start off by getting into the go back to Thursday when Elon Musk uh, decided to ban some a few liberal journalists off of the Twitters. Thanks so much, Kelly. Yeah, that's the way to go most of the time. I'll turn sideways just to give you a more fuller view of how that long hair is looking, especially since during the week I mainly have that up. Since if it gets hot at work, I don't like having hair get in the way of my face. But I'm sure most long haired people understand that. Yeah, I remember the one time, a couple of times I went out to California for a winter trip and being surprised at how cold it got in the morning. But also the house I stood at didn't have like heat, so that made it a bit of a different experience. So let's get ready to get into this first part of Elon Musk. For those of you who don't know, uh, Elon Musk was supposed to, some people believed he was supposed to be the free speech savior for Twitter, but we've seen that that's not really the case. So let's just update it to see what some how some tweets at the top have changed. So what happened is on Thursday night, Elon Musk banned like 7 prominent liberal Twitter accounts, including Keith Olbermann being one. Aaron Rupar, the two of the biggest liberal hacks that you have on this site. Then it even caught someone who uh, has infiltrated in this independent media space, which since Matt Binder, someone who mainly contributes on the Majority Report, he was one of those included too because of sharing Elon Musk live plane coordinates, and Musk saying that it was doxing. First off, we'll see how this is like also something to keep in mind, that these are also real-time plane coordinates that can be accessed online. But as we can see, this is where the inconsistency of doxing comes into play, because would Elon Musk really care if any one of us suddenly got doxed on Twitter? Like, especially the smaller content creators, such as myself, Uncle Warren, Political Matrix, and many of the other people part of the Indian News Network. Is that something that he's going to keep his energy consistent on? Because I don't think so, first and foremost. But the thing is, this Representative Mark Pocan is going to show us how it's a lot of these liberals really only get upset, and also the quote unquote journalists get on set once it gets clamped down and applied to them. While he may not be wrong about Musk being a thin-skinned billionaire, but the thing is, many of the people who are accusing him of that are also pretty damn thin-skinned themselves. So let's see. And also a newer development in this is, while he did let some journalists back on, he just banned the Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz from the platform. And I think I got a really interesting thread to share, kind of a funny one too, before we continue on. Pretty good thread, kind of funny. So now it's hey Yona, what's up, man? Ooh, and I got my cam just went out for a moment. Not that it's gonna matter too much, because about to share this. And while I leave that up on the screen, this is being trippy. For those of you familiar, my USB webcam here does trip up and act up on me. Give it a minute, but this is a good Chris Legion, member of the INN Indie News Network, a good thread here. And he has a little quiz. Which one is the real journalist? Is it the recently banned Taylor Renz? Or is it Eva Bartlett, someone who is been covering the Ukraine-Russia proxy war in the Donbass for several months now? That's where, and I think the answer is pretty obvious to that one. Propagandist at the Washington Post, who is pretty much for the whole selective doxing of her political enemies. Next one, Fiorella Isabel or Anna Kasparian. I think that answer is very obvious. Fiorella, not only of one of the hosts of the Convo Couch, but you can also find her on RT America. Let's see, next question. Jink Uger or Aaron Mate? I think it's the guy who, has won awards for his journalism debunking Russiagate. Yes, that would be Aaron Mate. Is it a guy who I just learned played a health inspector's voice on Bob's Burgers? Sam Cedar, the same Sam Cedar who, by the way, got his chance to fill in on Chris Hayes and pushed Russiagate. Max Blumenthal, who will call you a boot-looking punk right to your face. Hey, Uncle Warren, what's up? I missed your chat for a moment. Is it Whitney Webb or Emma Vigilant? I think someone who's done a lot of investigative reporting in relation to Jeffrey Epstein, which would be Whitney Webb. And I'm not sure, I can't tell who this guy clearly is to the right of Mike Figueredo in this photo here, but I know that he's a far more legitimate journalist. Kit Clarenberg or Ken Klippenstein, someone on the right whose journalism is just troll ship posting. Another good one, Anya Pomerpil or Nomiki Konst. Pretty obvious that it's always going to be the ones who do some serious work uncovering foreign policy. I think this is one of the most hilarious comparisons with Dylan Burns and Chris Hedges, a real anti-war journalist who got kicked off from the New York Times. Jordan Charlatan or Kermit the Frog. Then there's Wyatt Reed, by the way, another person who's been in the Donbass. And in fact, for those of you who weren't aware, he actually just was seconds away from being in a hotel that got attacked with a bomb. And if he was gone if he just got there a few seconds sooner, that could have been trouble for him. And crystal ball, an interesting comparison. Twitter Files edition, Matt Taibbi or Bari Weiss? Obviously, this whole Bari's gotten some of the Twitter Files leaks, but she got melted. Her liberal tendencies came back out. While I think Matt has stood pretty true to who he is as being someone who's about uh, freedom of speech and fighting against censorship. Keith Olbermann, Julian Assange, by far over this Rachel Mad Cow. One of these guys was Matt Binder in the recent Twitter ban. And by the way, Pasta Giardula and Binder did a little debate last year. And for those of us, oh look, Nico House behind him. It's obvious that Pasta outperformed there. Then like another good one, Grind Higgins and Eeyore, actually, and Glenn Greenwald, another pretty consistent principled voice on censorship and freedom of speech. And the last one, a couple more to go, Abby Martin or David Sirota, someone who's on the other side of my city in Denver, looking like an idiot with that point, while Abby has actually gone down to Palestine to do some further investigative level journalism. Frank Analysis or Ryan Grimm, who just got absolutely owned recently by Kashama Sawant on Bad Faith. And there's more. Nico House or Benjamin Dixon? That's a pretty obvious one to me, as it with Nico. Then a couple big time, one of the biggest platforms on the independent left in George Galloway, host of the mother of all talk shows, or Mehdi Hassan, who has now turned into who went from a progressive shitlip propagandist now. Margaret Kimberly, obviously, of the Black Agenda Report. Kyle Kowinski or Toaster. Caitlin Johnstone or Vosh. And it looks like he's in a meltdown because Caitlin is better at journalism. Then the last one of this is Katie Halper or Joyanne Reed. Oh. Let me see if I can. Now I'm going to go back to the. See, my webcam's acting kind of weird. See, I may have to. Give me a moment. I'm going to move on to the next thing here. Look at this. As you can see, let's go to the original tweet first. NBC News temporarily suspended reporter Ben Collins from NBC and MSNBC airwaves, saying his Musk's criticism was not editorially appropriate. Journalism is supposed to speak truth to power, not bow to it. Then you can look here. Nick Cruz of Revolutionary Blackout Network. AOC hasn't tweeted one time about support for Shireen Abu Akleh. By the way, the Palestinian journalist who got killed by the Israel government, or Julian Assange. But she has the time to tweet in defense of corporate journalists. As you can see how much of clown shit that is. The fact that we've got AOC is supposed to be someone who should be advocating for journalism and the same independent media who helped AOC get into her Congress seat, including among the many like Jimmy Dore and a few of the other like independent media platforms who have been around for longer. And there we are. Now I'm back on the screen. So this is the type of, as you can see, here are the results. No results of the Palestinian journalist who got killed last year. I mean, several months ago. In fact, I know that was if you're curious on the original segment, it was the episode where Marcus Cage from the Political Matrix was on. And this is, look at that. Then no results for Julian Assange either. I think there's a few other good quote tweets calling out AOC. Which goes to show you where they're at the progressives, not just her, but everyone else, their focus is lied on now the corporate media apparatus. So it goes to show you like the whole hypocrisy that how they're only upset when they themselves get censored. But when it comes down to it, there's so few principal voices when it comes to the whole freedom of speech and having like free platforms. Because Elon Musk, if for those of you who had hopes that Elon Musk would be that guy, that was not the case whatsoever. There's like a few small areas around the edges that are slightly less bad, but overall, that isn't the case at all. But I want to get at least one more clip up. Yes, one more clip to go to for this portion before I move on to a different direction here.
In the last few hours with a handful of journalists being banned.
Well, as I'm sure everyone who's been doxxed would agree, showing real-time information about somebody's location is inappropriate, and I think everyone on this call would not like that to be done to them. And there's not going to be any distinction in the future between journalists, so-called journalists, and regular people. Everyone's going to be treated the same. You're not special because you're a journalist. You're a Twitter. You're a citizen. So no special treatment. You dox, you get suspended. End of story.
So let's see if this energy will still be consistent when, once the 2024 election season really kicks up, then K-Hive reforms and starts to attack anyone who criticizes Kamala Harris, because even though apparently there's some progressive groups who are trying to ask nicely for Joe Biden to not run for president for that second term in 2024, the point is that's not going to happen. And even if Joe Biden does step to the side, just know that there's going to be no point of trying to get your hopes up on trying to get some other progressive challenger through a primary. We've seen it twice with Bernie Sanders, and even if he does try one more time, there is no point of getting any type of investment or support, given how he has just been Joe's good friend. So that's one thing that I'll wait and see, is once the K-Hive gets reignited, will Elon Musk have that consistent energy, since doxing was a thing that the K-Hive regularly resorted to, even though, and they were actually the most toxic group of supporters among all that loaded field of candidates back in that 2020 primary, even though corporate media swore up and down and bottom that it was the Bernie pros.
So and ban evasion, or trying to be clever about it, like, oh, I posted a link to the real-time information, is obviously that is obviously simply trying to evade the meaning. That is, there's no different than actually showing real-time information.
So when you're saying posting a link to it, I mean, some of the people like Drew and Ryan Mack from the New York Times who were banned were they were reporting on it in the course of sort of pretty normal journalistic endeavors. You consider that like a tricky attempt at ban evasion?
You show the link to the real-time information, ban evasion, obviously.
Drew, I don't think you were posting the real-time information, right?
I mean, you're suggesting that we're sharing your address, which is not true. And you're suggesting that we're posting. We never. I never posted your address.
You posted a link to the address.
We posted a link. In the course of reporting about Elon Jet, we posted links to Elon Jet, which are now not online and now banned on Twitter and Twitter.
So now this is going to be another slippery slope, because Elon Musk specifically says doxing real-time locations. But what about when someone doxes records and exposing them for people in a way that is that supposed to be acceptable? Like, remember last year when Ken Klippenstein uh, doxed a court record of Fiorella Isabel? Is that okay in Elon Musk Twitter too? Because the old Twitter regime consider that really okay. Or does doxing only count as a real-time location? Or is it like a being somewhere, if it's just your address where you're not there all the time? Is that plenty of like inconsistencies that could be potentially exposed?
Twitter also, of course, marks even the Instagram and Mastodon accounts of Elon Jet as harmful. Using, we have to acknowledge, using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 2020. So what is different here and there?
No more acceptable for me. It's no more acceptable for me, for you, than it is for me. Same thing. So anyway.
So it's unacceptable what you're doing?
No, what you dox, you get suspended, end of story. That's it.
Elon, I have to ask, I mean, I think what everyone's wondering is it's highly unusual for journalists at the Washington Post and the New York Times to have their Twitter accounts suspended. And it just so happens that it's, the boss in charge, so, what's the deal there? Oh, I think Elon has left. I guess
that's
we'll
unfortunate
never know
because
the answer.
Yeah, I mean,
guess what the difference is there.
Man,
not
I
trying
had
to.
so many. I was raring to go, guys.
I know, I was too.
I was going to order a Cybertruck.
I just want to say, sorry, I don't want to browbeat him. And this is reporting, right? There is value to reporting where people go. Most of what Elon Jet shared was him going to the factory in California or the factory in Texas.
WCSN. Who are Musk bodyguards? Are they Prince's outfits or whatever he named it last? I'm sure twitbotting is a part of their jobs now. Oh, yeah. Another thing for those of you who weren't aware is that even if an account gets banned from Twitter, you can somehow still hang out in Twitter Spaces, or at least you were at the time. But I'm sure that that's probably something that was going to get corrected soon. But there's let's go to earlier today, shall we? That big World Cup final between France and Argentina. Let's probably one of the best World Cup final games from what I've heard. Let's see. At the World Cup right now. So I guess self-voluntary doxing is what I'm seeing right here. But then again, we know that he'll be pretty secure in that little press box he was in. As a big win in the shootout by Argentina. Didn't get to watch though because I was lazy in bed. Oh, interesting poll. Let's see. How many? I wonder what. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a pretty big yes. Oh, that's actually not as big of a gap as I thought. I really did think it would be at least a 20% or more difference in the results. So still 9 hours left if you haven't voted, because all billionaire oligarchs are bad for being in control of speech and discourse on big tech, because they should become public utilities and be out of private hands. And we should get beyond these infantile, they're a private company, they can do what they want type of argument. Good question. Very good question, Novocaine. But don't forget, there's a lot of Musk bootlickers as well into the mix here. So I'm going to do a quick little skim of this next release of the Twitter files earlier, a couple hours ago, by Matt Taibbi. Let's see. Oh, it's more, looks like first part is more FBI corruption. And by the way, better Due Dissonance will be a better channel to go more in depth on this stuff. As I mentioned, they're one of the channels that have been probably doing the most thorough coverage of the Twitter files releases since the first one came out. So I think the first part is FBI. Definitely far more relevant, in my opinion, compared to like the Bari Weiss releases, where they showed more like right-wingers getting shadow banned and search banned. Then don't forget that in addition to that, there still hasn't been no like focus on how left accounts and the effects of shadow ban and search ban have been on them. So I will show you an example of one thing Elon Musk has not done. In fact, I'm going to show you an example of Fiorella Isabel. So I'm even going to do the search part for you. So let me put in you see only like a parody account. Even though I follow Fiorella, and many of us here do too, she doesn't come up in the search. She does come up here. I just wanted to show you that part real quick before I get to the right tweet of hers. So now I got the right tweet up. But how many people are really talking about this? So here's what she said. I'm not even allowed to purchase Twitter Blue but the Convo Couch is, and so is any other account I have. But sure, Musk is for free speech, but I'm not the only one. Musk is clearly shadow banning and blocking any accounts deemed state affiliated. People search my name and can't find me. And you see, if not for the fact that people like us have already followed her prior to this, we may have not been able to find her at all. So this is one of the problems, by the way, with something that isn't a priority of Elon Musk is the fact that how bad that these state-affiliated labels are on Twitter accounts. I know George Galloway has one too. I believe Eva Bartlett does. And how it's creates this uneven platform. And as a couple weeks ago when Elon said that you'd have to pay to have a favorable algorithm, which doesn't undo the problem. So the previous regime, it only shifts the issues in a different way. And that right there is something that not very many people are talking about, because too many liberals have been told to discard anyone who has like the Russia or China state affiliated media label, when it's just more often than not, there's a lot of good independent journalists on Twitter who just get labeled that way. And they're also not your standard corporate media here. Doesn't get any type of United States affiliated media label. So let's shift off Twitter for a moment and show you a little video from Mint Press from a couple days ago. I think this is important to show you how non-Jewish people get treated in Israel.
אל תפגושי לנסוע! את נשואה עם קושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! את נשואה עם קושי! לכי! לא מתביישת! סודנים לסודן! סודנים לסודן! מדינה שלי פה! זה הבית שלי! אני נולדתי פה! איפה אתה?
עדיין לא מאוחר, אפשר מחר לעשות מעשה, להתחיל לעשות את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
להתרח בסודן זה לא קל, זה הבית שלנו, זה המדינה שלנו, אבל הדבר החשוב ביותר זה לגרש את המסתננים לארץ ישראל ולשמור על מדינת ישראל ומדינה יהודית.
חברים, אני היום במליאה אמרתי, הסודנים הם סרטן בגוף שלנו.
אני מסכם בדיוק.
דרך אגב, מעבירה אותם גם לאותו מקום שאנחנו בונים עכשיו את המחנות, שיעבדו שם.
אם ייתנו לי את כל הכלים, ואני פועל להשיג את כל הכלים, וזה לא קל. אם ייתנו לי את כל הכלים בלי יוצא מן הכלל, תוך פחות משנה לא יישאר בארץ ישראל אפילו מסתנן אחד.
מה זה גירוש? איזה גירוש? הם שווים הביתה, כל מדינה בעולם מתוקנת הייתה עושה את זה. נהפוך להיות מדינת הגירה, אבל יש כאלה שעוינים את המדינה. ולכן הם רוצים להפוך אותה למדינת אזרחי כל העולם. אתה יודע, ותביא לי פה מיליון אפריקאים, היא תחדל מלהיות יהודית. היא תחדל מלהיות יהודית.
So when you look at this video, first off, first thing I think about, Zionist. This has to be the mindset of the Zionist that you've got not only here, but out in Israel. Nova Kane says, wow, this is exactly what Israel was created for, the Jews to escape, or something like that, point being hypocrisy. And Kelly, I just say we stop all of the aid and arms that we give to Israel and the rest of the Middle East and let them try to play nice with their neighbors. But the problem is, look at any time that a so-called quote-unquote progressive tries to get into office, guess what all of them are? They are all anti-BDS. Every single one of them. John Fetterman wants to be a very pro-Israel progressive. I know some funding flipped, some dark money flipped that Maxwell Frost kid from Florida. Summer Lee, another one who said that they were anti-BDS. Compton J brought up a great example on a recent stream where he brought up the fact that someone from their community was concerned that he would actually be a pro-Palestine congressman, and it turned out that he just gave him a letter back. Don't worry, I'll be very, very pro-Israel. Thank heavens that tiny country gets more of than 80% of our entire aid budget. You know, what's funny is how Ukraine is eating into that a bit. Then we know it's only a matter of time before the United States moves on to using Taiwan for a proxy war with China. Let's see, Yona says, Jonathan Pollard sure did hook up Israel with a nuclear arms program based at Dimona near Tel Aviv. No one talks about Israel's nuclear arms they stole from the United States. And that also brings up another point of fear-mongering over who does and who doesn't have the nuclear weapons, because one of the arguments that liberals will use to try to get you to be pro-Ukraine is the fact that Putin is a maniac that can't be trusted with nuclear weapons. But the way that you respond to that is by saying that someone like Zelensky should be responding by using their nuclear weapons first. A complete recipe for disaster. Anyone knows that who sees how like past conflicts can just evolve from two people to the whole entire world, which would literally could have the catastrophic effect to make the whole world nuclear fodder. But the first thing I think about is, remember Kyrie Irving sharing that link to that film on Amazon, and everyone calling him anti-Semitic, even when Kyrie Irving himself says that he is Semitic. And that also makes me think about how Zionists have decided to blame black people for problems of anti-Semitism in their country. But when you just saw that video from Mint Press, these people do not have the high ground to be blaming black people for the rise of anti-Semitism that they claim when they're being major racists themselves, as Zionism is another form of white supremacy that we experience here. And this type of discourse leads into people. Yes, that right there, exactly, Yona. Anti-Semitic is just a weaponized term used by Mossad, Israeli deep state, to immediately libel and slander truth tellers. And that right there, exactly. And as I was saying, that discourse leads towards people fear-mongering about black supremacy, because when it comes down to it, you could try to talk about being supremacist, but it really doesn't matter if you don't have any real political power. And white supremacy still holds all the power here in the United States. As a Cherokee, the Yona stands with the Philistines/Palestines. They also said F you to US and IAEA. We gifted those nukes. FYI, airports, entire defense systems loaded with offensive weaponry. Jewish communities have existed in Africa for as long as they've been outside of it. Hello, Ethiopia. But there's only, they keep trying, Jewish people like Zionists keep trying to tell you that Semitic people only, they want you to believe that they're like the only form of Semitic people and the most supreme one too. But let's get back into the further developments of another thing that came out from Twitter earlier today, something that's going to disproportionately negatively affect content creators all across the board. See, you remember when the USS Liberty, when the Zionists murdered American sailors in cold blood in 1967? Yona's bringing up a lot of great information here. Remember 9/11, urban moving systems, dancing Israelis. Watch out, WCSN. Dropping knowledge on the chat. We recognize many of our users are active on other social media platforms. However, we will no longer allow free promotion of certain social media platforms on Twitter. Specifically, we will remove accounts created solely for the purpose of promoting other social platforms and content that contains links or usernames for the following platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Nostr, and Post. And we know who that's going to disproportionately affect the most. That is the smaller content creators trying to get their start on platforms or use the platforms like Twitter to promote themselves in other ways, like the ones that are just listed. In fact, there's a part of me who's surprised that YouTube, Twitch weren't listed. Then like other ones like Rumble, Rockfin, TikTok. We still allow cross-posting content from any social media platform, posting links or usernames to social media platforms not listed above, also not in violation of this policy. More information on this policy, as well as how we will take action, can be found here. And one thing that's also included into this is Linktree. So once I learned of this, I just ended up having to change the link in my profile bio off my Linktree to the YouTube channel. So by the way, for those of you who are familiar with it, click the link tree in the description below, but it won't be on Twitter going forward, even though I still got to get it off the show account too at some point. Does it certainly not occur to him that people can and will stop using Twitter? And I think this is the problem, that it's going to be a matter of time before the water dam breaks and people really move on to a new social media platform. I know for me that the one that some of the left has been hopeful on is Panquake, although there's a chance that Mastodon could become that next big social media platform. But only time will tell. And with the way Musk is doing things to this point, he's doing a lot of like harmful harm shifting, but in a bad way so far. So I know that Uncle Warren also was among the many upset about not being able to use the link tree anymore on Twitter. So it's in a recent photo he shared. Especially as many of the Indie News Network people all got Linktree accounts. Elon will run amok for bankruptcy for Twitter and use socialism to get all his money back. That point exactly, Kelly, because once you become rich, you can just use stuff like Chapter 11 bankruptcies and shit like that in order to get yourself recovered and back to accruing wealth. I mean, look, the last president, Donald Trump, was someone who had to cut his losses, but quickly be able to still be the same rich billionaire that he has been his whole life. But then another point to get to this is the fact that not only are like small content, like small channels like myself, many of the other members on INN and Yona, by the way, which I need to subscribe to his channel soon. I keep forgetting to do that. Also, a good guest appearance that Yona had on What with Jimmy Sutherland last week as KRTD Media, and has some big stuff planned for New Year's Eve. Yes, anytime, Yona. But the point is, this is also going to pretty disproportionately affect sex workers too, who use the link trees for convenience, for having all the links to all the platforms like OnlyFans and all those, and several of the other like mini vids and many of the other sites where they can post their content. So that's going to be another challenge for them, because they're going to be back to having to choose the main platform to share once again. And even though they said Linktree, I believe that there's like other similar sites that weren't specifically listed for. I'm not really sure what those are off the top of my head, but I know that there's a few other sites similar to Linktree, but they're not listed in the whole ban thing, even though with the way Elon Musk reacts, those will probably be quickly added to the list as well. What does a self-emodulating social media platform smell like anyway? A bunch of shit, pretty much. And that's then there's plenty of other people who are going to be affected by it as well, who don't even like talk about topics to the way that many of us do. Like just someone who does like casual podcast about like pop culture and stuff, and makeups and like toy cars. Whoever those people may be are also going to find themselves not be able to promote themselves in the best way that they can to the fullest of their ability, given that Twitter is one of the biggest social media platforms and one of the most convenient, given that the way that people interact with Twitter is like the best place for people to find people like us in the independent media space, because people on Facebook are an older crowd and they tend to cling more to the traditional corporate media outlets. I could stand to try to use TikTok. I haven't gotten into it yet. I notice that certain people get huge on TikTok, even though they may not be that big on other platforms. Yes, that right there, Yona. Face boomer is why we don't get much traction when we share our shit on that site. So now let's shift into the next main topic of tonight's show. My Facebook. MySpace, good times. Met a pretty thin-skinned flower from there one time. Let's see. So earlier this week, we've got a chapter of DSA. And this is going to connect to like the whole fraud squad and standing up for union workers. But Kashama is the original part of it because she's part of that small handful of good politicians that we have. Like, I could barely count at least 3 decent politicians: Kashama Sawant, Claire Daly, and Nick Wallace. And this is they posted a photo of Sawant's tweet. All but one of, quote, squad crossed the picket line, voting with Dem Rep majority to break rail workers' strike. A socialist can't be a strike worker. This should result in expulsion from DSA. Failing that, the squad's betrayal of workers becomes DSA's betrayal. And this is what this DSA North Star chapter said. Openly organizing for your ultra-left cult within DSA is an expellable offense. Entryism is forbidden by our bylaws. Disagreeing with ultra-left positions on things is not an expellable offense in a democratic socialist organization. So, what they might as well just change their name to Democratic Scapulist of America. because they're right now defending the elected progressives breaking the rail workers' strike. And DSA has a ultra liberal fascist bleeding cult because, as you can tell, the leadership within DSA couldn't give two flying fucks about having any type of principle on foreign policy. Remember last year that DSA wanted Jamal Bowman to be expelled for his support of Israel and the Iron Dome and stuff like that. But now they're actually going after someone who actually has principle in Shama Sawant. Ultra shit liberty is a major problem that has infiltrated this organization. DSA shit show equal FBI COINTELPRO. Right on with that one. And I'm glad that during the whole time that I was laid off back in 2020, when I'm sure a lot of people could have thought about using their extra time to join an organization like the DSA. But it was people like who were critical of what the leadership of DSA does. People like Jimmy Dore, the MCSC network, and several others who, Ryan Knight too, by the way, they were actually critical of DSA. Valid criticisms, while you have these, you deal with these like Rose accounts who would melt down over stuff that is pretty valid criticisms. I know there are a few good replies here. Friend of the show, James Fauntleroy of our Revolutionary Blackout Network. Maybe take the socialist word out of your name if you're going to go against a socialist that's literally advocating for workers. Joe STFU shitlib of INN. Look at that crying AOC scab on that person's knee. Definitely not a pretty sight by any means. And they even, that account even replied to someone that's replying this. But as you can see, a lot of good people's in this Twitter space all coming in for a ratio. Oh yeah, here it is. Most things are debatable and can have valid points of view. Being a strike breaker or scab supporter is not one of those things. How about apologist for fascist imperialism, Russia, and authoritarian capitalism, China? This is why the DSA shitlip brain is such unserious from a foreign policy standpoint. Because obviously enemies of the United States empire, by the way. But one is like, actually, China has actually done a lot to raise the standards of living more so than at any point in what is now close to 190 years since the United States has really done that, since the days of FDR, where it was really only done to keep capitalism in place, not to actually be a step towards socialism. Yes, Kelly, I would think that a fascist, imperialist, authoritarian, capitalist country would be us. Yes, Kelly, that. Check, 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 and check. But corporate media is hell of a truck. That's why you see people who think they're part of this independent media space go right along with that line of thinking. The country is run by unelected permanent COG government at RRMC, PA, Raven Rock. Spoiler alert. And that's why this whole neoliberal idea of like changing some of the faces to get better results, changing some of the faces is actually going to change things, is not really going to matter without like being again, without a like full on a rejection of this current system. But before we get into the other squad members more in focus, I'm going to share this video as well. It's from Turncoat Dawn, who does some very good videos on some good if words were violence, little highlight videos. So this will be a good little recap for those who still haven't gone through like the near 2-hour episode of Bad Faith of Kashama Sawant, handing it to negative sideburns having fuck Ryan Grimm.
But maybe the workers don't want to be part of this fantasy play.
What the actual fuck we on the left, I'm not talking about people like Ryan Grimm. I mean, those of us who genuinely want to defend working people, we have the obligation to call out both elected officials who have betrayed us and also the labor leaders who have betrayed us. I don't know how much Ryan actually knows about the labor movement. I have been a rank and file member of the labor movement. I've been a delegate to the Labor Council. I have spent 10 years as an elected representative. Nobody in their right mind, Ryan, maybe despite being a political analyst, you thought that the Senate, there was any chance of the Senate voting yes on a paid sick leave bill? Yeah, Ryan Grimm doesn't worry me. The workers who are listening to this understand that he's engaging in sophistry and he's completely misrepresenting what I said. The truth, though, is it's not about Ryan Grimm. It is about people like him. We cannot trust people like Ryan Grimm. Ryan Grimm says, never let politicians out of your sight, while at the same time defending those same politicians who have sold out working people. I would say to working people, never let politicians out of your sight, but never let people like Ryan Grimm out of your sight. Politicians couldn't sell workers out without the Ryan Grimms of the world defending their betrayers. Politicians rely on the left cover of people exactly like Ryan here, making the rounds, making excuses for vicious attacks on the working class. Not only that, but turning around and accusing fighters for workers, socialists like myself, as somehow being against workers. I've seen this all the time in Seattle. If the Democrats on the council weren't given cover by people like them, they would not be able to do what they do, which is sell workers out over and over again.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Hey there, what's up, Jason Rodriguez? So Turncoat Dawn, I think, does some really good videos on this. I know Joe tends to get more attention for the videos that he's been producing since being an INN member, but also Turncoat Dawn does some really good work with those. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, it's youtube.com/@turncoatdawn. He has a little over 2.17K subscribers at the moment. But let's shift gears to the point of a few days ago, after AOC, along with all the other elected progressives, did the vote to kill their strike. This is what the performative queen AOC does last week.
And push it so we get paid sick days here. Thank you all so incredibly much. We are here to join together to continue this fight, and we know that we are going to exercise every single avenue possible in order to secure paid sick days for our rail workers and every worker in the United States of America. We know that we've tried in Congress, but we also continue to have other options available to us. On Friday, let me make sure I get my facts straight over here. On Friday, Senator Bernie Sanders, along with my colleagues, Representative Bowman, myself, Cori Bush, in total 70 members of the House and the Senate led a letter to President Biden on Friday, asking and urging him to do everything he can to guarantee that rail workers can get our 7 days of paid sick leave.
See, this is what happens. You got progressives watering down. Not only did they vote to kill the strike, they're also continuing to water down the demands. You know, remember how many sick days the rail workers asked for? 5, 10, 15. They're not even asking for half the days that the rail workers asked for. And if you were serious about advocating for those rail workers to get their working rights, they would. You would not only be voted no against killing their strike, you would be out there asking for those 15 days that they've been asking for as well. And when you look at that crowd, you can tell that there's not hardly any genuine people involved in that little stunt. I'm sure most of those people holding signs are DNC plants who are doing their part to get this little thing over last week. Yes. Our 7 sick days, which, by the way, most places in this country only want to give you 5 sick days at best. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a 6th or a 7th one. But given how people are getting more sick and you want people to be more cautious about being around others when sick, but you still only want to advocate for 7 sick days, not only for 7 for railroad workers, but workers all around the country, when that 15 sick days would give you a lot more leeway to be on the side of caution when you don't feel good. Jason, good point. Somehow content creators like you need to go to these coal miners and put them on. I know that Jimmy Dore had an interview with one of the union leaders that he just posted a couple days ago. Say, Yona, private railroad ownership is the greatest impediment to infrastructure maintenance and much less improvement, and is the greatest threat to domestic national security. Just try to imagine private ownership of the entire interstate highway system. Interesting point to consider. WCSN, the Dem football team's quarterback gets the Dems to the red zone. The Republicans jump off sides, giving Dems a 1st and 5, then suddenly the Dem quarterback chooses to kick 3 on 1st and 5 for the 8th time since W. Go Dems. Oh, yeah. What's sad is, like, the Democratic strategy of football may actually be a better football team than the Denver Broncos had been up until like the past 2 weeks. And let's see, who's another sad offense this year? Tampa Bay is a pretty sad offense too, but there's a few really sad ones. Derailments every single day. Precision schedule railroad exhausting a 19th century network, barely surviving the 21st century. Another good point to be made, as no one is really talking about like the high-speed rail, a thing that has actually taken off in other countries around the world, but we're still stuck with this rail system that is behind. So yeah, that's a main point of that is they're so progressive that they can't even ask for half of the union's original demands. Because if you are serious and principled, like Hishama Sawant, you'll be there to help amplify their demands and ask for it all and more. Because what we do know is you often don't get everything you ask for. So when you water down things ahead of time, a little classic on-brand Democratic tactic, you'll see that you don't even get the watered-down version of what you originally asked for. And that's a thing that is often permeated the whole, like, ask for $15 an hour when it's to the point where we should really be asking for $25 now. But watch come the 2024 election season, you're going to still have progressives talk about $15 an hour. But there's more, though. Now we shift gears to Jamal Bowman. See what advocacy he does. Let's play this video.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. We are standing in solidarity with Starbucks workers, 1,000 strong, are going on a 3-day strike to demand their respect and dignity and a living wage. We are standing with them in Congress, and we are standing with them across the country. And let's not buy anything from Starbucks over a 3-day period in support of the workers. Peace and love. Let's go. Starbucks, show your workers respect. Let's get it done.
Look at that. Then I think one of the best ratios of that tweet. American politicians will break a strike for one section of workers and then pose as if they support a strike for another. It's all a con to keep things just the way they are. And that right there is what progressives have allowed themselves to turn themselves into. Useful idiots to keep the divide of workers against other workers. See, Jason Rodriguez, $32.50 an hour. You have to fix the cost of living, raising the raise is chasing the dragon. Yes, it's definitely a tough conundrum. It's not all going to be simply fixed just by one or the other. You have to do some of both. Kind of like inflation, where they could have subsidized excessive cost. That way Kelly doesn't have to pay $8 for a head of lettuce, but they just flat out refuse to do anything about it and just let it go unmitigated. See how Starbucks is very much a professional managerial class based led strike. See, nice little gift from Colin Radix Carter of INN. Scabs not welcome here. And this just goes to show you how they're not really for the rights of workers. I've been eating less lettuce. I'm sorry to hear that, Kelly. Glasses wearing managerial class. Yeah, they all got their like fancy $800 lenses where they use them when they put them on. That way they could talk down to you and tell you to shut up and trust the plan. We know how that goes. Oh, yeah, that's the sad part about it. Novocaine is 90% water. And you're going to charge that much. So many good replies here. As you can see in the tweets. And I hope people have figured out by now that politicians aren't going to be there to help your worker-led cause. It's going to be largely done by the direct action of people amplified by independent media, not like people who pretend to be independent media, like the Breaking Point's conglomerate, but just become their own version of corporate media, of mainstream media themselves. And it won't be done by people like Negative Sideburns having fuck Ryan Grimm, who is also going to defend politicians half the time or more when he talks about worker strikes around the country. That's how it's done. What's happening right now. So I think I'm going to go into one little thing that happened in relation to Bernie Sanders over the past week as well. The very pro-war Bernie Sanders, by the way, he has no backbone whatsoever when it comes to challenging the military-industrial complex. If the best thing that you could say is that you helped force a vote to get the 5% decrease, then you're not serious whatsoever. Because at this point in time, this just to be at the right place, asking for 50% reduction is like the moderate position of military funding. And even then, that's still not quite moderate enough for me, as I'm someone who advocates for at least a 90% reduction of the current military budget. So this whole war powers resolution on Yemen resurfaced. This isn't the first time that Bernie Sanders has had the opportunity to push this through Congress. But guess what he did? The spineless cuck backed down once again from pushing on it. And you know why? It's because he doesn't want to be adversarial to his good old friend Joe. That's why. Because Yemen is one of the examples of people who are being victim to U.S. imperialism and sanctions that doesn't get talked about as much as it should, in part due to the focus of like other countries where it's more discussed, like Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. Once again, and this is what happened a few days ago in this. Sanders called for a vote to be held Tuesday evening. The White House, according to sources involved in a fight over the resolution, is urging senators to vote against the resolution. The White House is arguing a vote in favor of is unnecessary despite the lapse of the ceasefire. Significant hostilities have not yet resumed, and the vote will complicate diplomacy. They are also urging that Biden has made significant progress in reducing violence and reopening ports and airports, so his judgment should be respected and the resolution rejected. And finally, the White House has warned that some of the arguments being made could complicate the effort to back Ukraine against its war against Russia. I don't think you have to worry about that one, because you saw how Bernie calls out valid criticism from his left on that. He just accuses them of being paid by Russia. Some serious clown shit right there. The White House spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Senator Chris Murphy, chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee with jurisdiction over U.S. support for the war, denounced the conflict in a series of statements posted online Tuesday. And that goes to show you how. Oh, Jason, And you have to clean the ranks and files out of military and get reparations for the things military has done to bring them up for charges. As far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of countries who have been victims of the imperialism, sanctions, and war, whether it's directly or by proxy, who would all be deserving of that. So, once again, that goes to show you that there's people right now who are going to get their hopes up on Bernie Sanders, but he has not whatsoever stood up for anything with any level of conviction ever since he rised through the political ranks that allow him to do a run for president that she heard the left into continuing to vote for this right wing, the other neoliberal, neoconservative party. Yet he'll still fearmonger how Donald Trump was the most racist president of all time, yet he has carrying water for someone who's been far more racist in his political career for a much longer time. That's Bernie Sanders for you. Is cuck the word of the year in any form? Heard it more times in 2022 than all other years of my life combined. I think 2021 or even 2020 would probably be slightly ahead, but who's really counting here? I don't have the counter set myself, but with that being said, I'd like to thank you all so much for coming out for tonight's episode of the Rochford Files with your host, Andrew Rochford. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Please click the like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Share it to familiar and unfamiliar places. Thanks so much, Uncle Warren. And got to do some a little promote some upcoming shows on the way before we leave here. So coming up, hey Anthony, what's up, man? So some upcoming shows to promote here before y'all should hop on over to Indie News Network next, as in about 18 minutes or so, they'll be on with another episode of How Did We Miss That with Reef Breland and Indy. That'll be at. And these are some of the things that they'll talk about, like Julian Assange in connection to Elon Musk, more of the Twitter files on tonight's show, which will be coming up shortly. And tomorrow night on Extra Bulla. Oh, I thought he had the. I guess I know Uncle Warren's doing the whole. He's doing a Twitter-related Extra Bulla tomorrow on focusing in on the Twitter files. I thought that he posted a he scheduled the show already, but I guess my eyes must be tricking me, or I could probably see it through my subscription scroll. Then don't forget tomorrow. What on KRTD Media? That'll be tomorrow, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Warren. Yes, don't forget to be on the lookout for that scheduled stream for Extra Bulla tomorrow. But yeah, so KRTD Media. What with Jimmy Sunderland, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, which was also right after AM Wake Up for those of you who watch that live on Rockfin from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern normally. Much love to y'all as well for showing up on the show tonight. As always, take this shit off the internet and bump it outside. We keeping it live. This is Andrew Rochford saying goodbye and good night.